Welcome to Aligned in Action, our October series on Living Naturally with Michaela. I'm Michaela, the Mind Body Connection Specialist, and this week we're focusing on aligned mindset, how the beliefs and thoughts we carry shape lasting transformation. To help us explore this, I'm joined by mindset medicine strategist Dr. Tanya B., a transformational leader and coach who specializes in helping people align their mindset with their vision for life. All right, welcome, Dr. Tanya.
Hello, thanks so much. It's great to see you again.
As usual, I'm always happy to have you here because I love that, with you, we can really kind of dive into this mindset stuff.
Mm.
It's a big part of what I teach as well because you got to have body and mind in alignment if you want to do anything. It's like it's like so I just had this just kind of pop into my head. It's kind of like like driving a car. It's like
Mhm.
you got to have the car itself, the body of the car and the engine and the driver all going in the same direction because the
Mhm.
car is not going to drive itself. So,
Right. We hope so anyway.
now that probably makes absolutely no sense, but that's what popped into my
Mhm.
head for some
Nope.
reason. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we all have to be working together, right?
Exactly. It's kind of,
Yeah.
like, it's like you got the hands, the feet, and all the different
Mhm.
parts of the body, and then
Mhm.
you got the brain. And it's like
Yeah,
everything has to be moving in the same direction, working together in order to actually have that forward movement. So
right. I think take that one step further. So if you drive a manual car, it's almost thoughtless, right? You put it in
yeah,
drive, you hit the gas, you go. If you try to drive that was an automatic. If you try to drive a manual, with the stick shift and you have
yes.
to change gears, that is a whole different ball game. You have to have it all together and you have to be paying attention to make sure that it works.
Interesting story. I actually learned to drive in the manual car, so it is totally different. I'm probably
Me
dating
too.
myself now.
Me
So
too.
I think it was
Well,
a
we
rite of
totally
passage
are.
for
I did the
everyone our
same
age.
exact thing. Yep.
All right, well,
I think
let's
you're
dive
right.
in.
And I still loved it. Like, yeah, that's good.
All right, so let's dive into today's conversation. So, you teach that lasting transformation isn't just about what we do, but about what we believe. So, can you share how aligning our thoughts with our values helps create a mindset shifts that truly stick? Because today we're talking about those
Mhm.
shifts that we can like really stick. So,
Yeah.
what do you have to say about that?
Yeah. Speaking of stick shift, right? We have to
Yeah,
stick the mindset.
exactly.
Yeah, I think that
It's
we
like we
always
didn't even plan that. It
right,
was
that's
meant to be.
hysterical. We're in alignment. I think that we always have to start with awareness, right? Like if you're not paying attention to what is going on in your world, there's no way you're going to create any sense of alignment. So awareness is where it all starts. That's sort of the beginning of everything. So, if you want to create any sort of shift, you need to pay attention to what is happening not only in your thoughts, but in your body.
Mhm.
So, if you are moving too fast, if you are working at capacity, if you're just not willing to acknowledge what's happening around you or what your patterns are, what your beliefs are, what your language is, and how you want to show up in the world, you can't even start to think about what is this alignment and how do you start living that way. And so you've got to start with this sort of basic level of alignment or awareness. And then I would also say that when I'm talking about alignment, at least for me, that's not like this spiritual posturization, right? Or living from a place of perfectionism or overanalyzing, even, because we tend to do that. Like if we want to do things just right, then we obviously, I'm having trouble with my words today. You can tell I've been at a conference all week. I'm obviously going to overanalyze. I'm going to think, I'm going to rethink until I'm not taking any action because I'm not sure what is the next move or what is right or what is wrong. And so what I'm really talking about in this awareness is just taking that quiet moment of listening to both, or maybe not even both, maybe it's all three. Your mind, you have to hear what's happening in your brain. You also have to be listening to your heart. So, at the soul of who you are, in the center of who you are, what is it that you're looking for? And then how does does your body react to that? Because your
Yeah.
body will let you know one way or another if this is a transformation that we are looking for, if we're interested in. So if your body, if you have a thought and your body is tensing or tightening or short of breath, that's probably not something that's coherent for you. If it is feeling like positive or expansion or comfortable might be a stretch, one way or another, but that's probably something that's going to be more in alignment for you. And so you've got to be paying attention to that. I think that when we are thinking about alignment, we are often thinking about, like, if this works for me, we're making our lists, right? Our to-do
Mhm.
list, our pros and our cons, or creating our strategy, the plan. How do we make this work? But if that is only like brain centric, if it is only coming from your brain, then your heart and your body can't sustain that for very long. So you have to make sure, in order to sustain and maintain that they are all three coming together. And so that happens when you bring them all together, by using the language that works and moving in the direction
Mhm.
that works. And so you have to figure out what are the values, and then how do you line up those values so that you are living in that coherence that I was talking about earlier, so that it doesn't feel like it's such a big effort. If it is an effort, then that's something that's probably, if it's creating that friction or it feels like you're swimming upstream, that's not going to create alignment for you. That's going to actually create something that's a little bit different, and at some point will circle you back to that lack of maintenance and sustainability,
Yeah.
so that we have to reevaluate that. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you're saying that when our thoughts, our mindset is not aligned with our own values, even the
Mhm.
body fights back against it.
Oh, sure enough. Sure enough. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll feel it. You will absolutely feel it. One of my favorite books is, Your Body Knows the Score. Your Body Keeps the
I
Score.
love that book. Love
Yeah,
that book.
Vander
Yeah.
Kolk. I always say Vander Kolk. He lays it out so well. It feels like a very academic book. It's very long, and it's not the easiest read in the world, but it is so true. And
Yes.
your body will respond in ways that lets you know if this is or false. What is it called? There's a muscle test that you can use, like, so you can have somebody push down on your hand, like, for a
It's muscle
trues and
response
false.
testing. Yeah. Muscle
Yeah,
response
right,
testing. Yeah.
right. And so, like, if you say, is your name this? Sure.
Yeah.
Is your shirt this color? It'll give you the yes or no. Your
Yeah.
body knows without your
Yeah.
conscious needing to be in charge of that. And so it'll work out one way or another.
Well, so initially I was going to ask you, to
Mm,
um,
mhm,
expand on, some practical ways that someone can start to notice and realign those
mhm,
beliefs. But I think you've already actually kind of touched on that a little bit.
mhm.
So what I'd like to do is throw you a little curveball.
Oh,
Okay.
shoot. Here we go.
So because this is a very interesting conversation, and sometimes
Okay.
these conversations are very dynamic. So even
Mhm.
though I come prepared with this is what we're going to talk about, I like to let the show go wherever
Mhm.
it's going to go, because I think that whatever we talk about is what the audience needs to hear at that
It
time.
might be in alignment, right?
Exactly. So, what
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on then
Mhm.
is, why do you think people often fall back into old patterns,
Oh,
even when they want to change? And how
yeah.
can proper alignment shift that? I
Oh
think
my
that's a better
gosh.
way to go for this. So,
Right, that's such a good question too, and don't we all do it? We all do
yes.
it, right? And I will tell you, I think so I mentioned the word comfort earlier. There is a comfortability, and I've got like 20 answers to this question, so I'm trying to figure out exactly which direction do we go. So I'm going to list a couple, and then we'll decide who we want to dig into. So I think comfortability, like, I'm safe here. I don't have to I know what the space is. I don't have to worry about learning, understanding, stretching, any of those things. I think fear is another thing, which is the other side of comfortability. If it's an unknown or a
Mhm.
fear of, like, being judged, that's huge. Like,
Yes.
we're all afraid of being judged. I told you I've been at a conference all week, and they're asking for responses. Nobody wants to respond because we're afraid our colleagues are going to judge us, and that's okay. But you have to figure out how to get around that. So fear is another one. Limiting beliefs. So I'm going to sort of roll this into another one. So our narratives or our story and our limiting beliefs sort of are all aligned into one thing, and those could be inherited. They might be generational, right? Like
Yes.
I spend a lot of time talking about mother wounds, and this is nothing about my mom and what my mom didn't do right. It's about this person that raised me who was trying to figure out who she was at the same time that I'm trying to figure out who I am. And so I have to give her grace for that. And then also, what did her mom do? And then her mom do? And then her mom do? And what did they learn? What did their culture tell them that was acceptable for them? What were the expectations that were created around that? What did their experiences teach them? Maybe some traumas teach them, because we all have those things. Right. And so any one of those things are the things that create resistance. And that resistance there, I think this is twofold, right? That resistance can come in two ways in terms of alignment. The worst is exactly what we're talking about. We're not stretching ourselves and moving into alignment because of one of those things. The stories, the fear, the comfortability. Or two, I also think there's this really interesting thing that happens that I believe that people get tested, right? And we've talked a little bit previously about like your belief systems, whether it's God, universe, karma, whatever that is, whatever yours is, I believe that you're going to get tested. So if you make a statement that is in alignment, there is likely going to be a test. And I think you and I might have just talked about one of these before we opened up. When we say it is time for me to do this thing, then there will be a test that will say, is that really what you want?
Yes.
Is it really what you want? And are you willing to prove it? And so that resistance can come in two fronts. One is it's a body response to say, no, that's not the right thing. Or it's this other sense of alignment to say, prove what you are doing it and stand up for yourself. It's almost like an opportunity. So it's a resistance, but it's out of a place of opportunity to allow you to live in that alignment. How about that?
That was great. Yeah. Yeah. When you were talking, all of those things were like resonating, not only from what I've lived, but, from what I've actually helped other people to overcome as well. Obviously, those of us that consider ourselves in the healing realm, we come from a place of we've lived this, so we can help guide you out of this. That's just the way it is. It's like we do something for ourselves, and then we want to help others to overcome too. It's just the way it is, But that also makes us more empathetic, So anyway, so some of the things that when you were saying comfortable. I'm having trouble with my words right too. Comfortability, yes. It's it's the whole thing of our brain wanting to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, exactly. The brain's job is to keep us safe. So sometimes when we're trying to make changes, sometimes when we're trying to move outside of our comfort zone, our brains will try to bring us back to that place of safety. And we can get stuck in all of those old patterns because it's what we're used to. It's safe. We know what's going to happen in this place. And then that, like you said, that brings up the fear of the unknown or the fear of being judged. It's like, if I'm not seen, if I stay here, no one can judge me.
Yeah. And that's all, right? Like that's all based on experiences.
Yeah.
If you grew up in a home where it was better to not be seen, if you had a traumatic experience that something hurt you, if you were bullied at some point, there's so many things that lead into that. So you have to identify what that is and what that resistance is. Yes. And if it's real or if it's not real, because that's another thing that happens is we create these resistances that never even existed. They're just our own thought processes or perceptions. And then sometimes we just have to break free of all of that. And it is not necessarily easy. I'm saying that as if, just check that box, move on. It's not necessarily easy, but it's worth the work that you put into them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Alrighty. Well, we're coming to the end of our show. I think this has been a very, very interesting talk. Obviously, something that people needed to hear. Before we wrap it up, though, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers and listeners today that you would like for them to take from today's episode?
Yeah, I think that I'll just go the last thing that I was just mentioning, like it's not easy, right? Like it sounds like it's just fluffy, sort of like maybe hippie woo, maybe just a little bit like this mindset stuff, but is just fluffiness, right? We don't have to put much thought or effort into this, but it really is. This is about healing. Typically, it's about healing some sort of root cause. It's about finding an
Yes.
experience, a trauma, or something that we need to overcome. And it might be something that you experienced or something that you did in a perception or something from history. But if you are willing to dive into that a little bit and you are willing to put the effort into that and do the work, the payoff is phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. That's where like again, it sounds sort of hippie woo, but that's where the
Yes.
manifestation starts. So if you can rewire some of those things, then that's where your happiness begins.
Awesome. Awesome. So there you have it. Mindset is the anchor for transformation. When our thoughts align with our values, change becomes sustainable. It's not about forcing positive thinking, it's
Mm.
about choosing beliefs that support who you who are becoming and practicing them daily. So it's about consistency. It's choosing and keep choosing. I guess is the best way to say
Over
it.
and over.
Because honestly, sometimes you can make the choice and then the next day it's out the window. So
Yep.
sometimes you have to keep making that choice. So it's about choosing beliefs that supports who you're becoming and practicing them daily. So thank you, Dr. Tanya, for sharing your wisdom on mindset and alignment with us again today. And thank you for tuning in to Align in Action. Again, I'm Michaela, the Mind Body Connection Specialist and Guide to Whole Health Transformation, reminding you that wellness isn't a destination, it's your daily journey. See you next week. Bye.